The lights inside the massive theater felt brighter than usual that evening, not just because of the cameras or the expectant crowd, but because of the quiet tension hanging in the air. The audience buzzed with whispers, judges shuffled their papers, and somewhere backstage, a young Filipino singer stood alone, clutching a worn microphone with hands that had known more hardship than applause. His name had barely registered with most people in the room. Another contestant, another hopeful, another dreamer walking onto one of the biggest stages in the world. Yet there was something different about him, something the cameras could not immediately capture. His clothes were simple, his shoes scuffed from years of walking dusty streets, and his posture carried both humility and fear. He wasn't used to stages like this. He was used to street corners, jeepney stops, and the sound of coins dropping into an empty cup. When his name was finally called, he took a deep breath and stepped forward. The spotlight found him instantly, making the rest of the world disappear. He blinked against the light, scanning the sea of faces before him. Thousands of eyes watched in silence. At the judges' table sat Simon Cowell, known for his sharp tongue and even sharper standards. Beside him were judges who had seen it all, voices that could shake stadiums, acts that defied logic. It was a place where dreams were either lifted into the sky or crushed within minutes. The host asked him where he was from, and his voice trembled slightly as he answered. The Philippines. He explained that he grew up poor, in a small area where music was not a luxury but a comfort. Singing had been his escape from hunger, from uncertainty, from nights when hope felt very far away. He spoke about his family, about his parents who worked tirelessly just to put food on the table, and about how music had always been his way of saying what words could not. The audience listened politely, some nodding, some smiling kindly. They had heard stories like this before. Simon leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He had learned long ago not to be swayed by backstories. For him, it always came down to one thing. Can you sing or not? The singer was asked what song he would be performing. He paused for a moment, swallowing hard. Then he said it, a Celine Dion song. I Love You. A bold choice, a dangerous choice. Songs by Celine Dion were known to break singers, not make them. They demanded control, emotion, power, and vulnerability all at once. The crowd murmured softly, some raised eyebrows. Simon's expression shifted slightly, not impressed, not amused, just curious enough to keep listening. The music began softly, almost whispering through the speakers. The singer closed his eyes for a brief second, as if remembering something far away. Maybe a childhood memory, maybe a moment of love or loss. Then he opened his mouth, and the first note floated out into the room. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was gentle, pure, and heartbreakingly honest. The audience stilled, conversation stopped, even the judges leaned forward almost without realizing it. His voice carried a fragile strength, the kind that comes from someone who has lived through pain but chosen tenderness instead of bitterness. Each word was shaped carefully, as if he were afraid of breaking something precious. As the song continued, his confidence grew. The soft beginning slowly gave way to richer tones, deeper emotion. He wasn't just singing the song. He was living it. Every lyric seemed to come from somewhere deep inside him, a place shaped by years of sacrifice and quiet endurance. His voice soared effortlessly through the melody, hitting notes that many singers only dreamed of reaching. Simon's posture changed. The crossed arms slowly uncrossed. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in criticism, but in focus. He leaned forward, elbows resting on the table, completely locked in. This was not what he had expected. This was not a street singer struggling to survive. This was an artist. The chorus arrived, and with it, the moment that changed everything. The singer's voice opened up, filling the theater with a powerful wave of sound that sent chills through the audience. It was controlled yet emotional, strong yet vulnerable. People felt it in their chests, in their throats, in the places where unspoken feelings lived. Somewhere in the crowd, a woman wiped away tears. A man closed his eyes, letting the music wash over him. The cameras cut to the judges, capturing reactions that spoke louder than words. One judge's mouth hung open in disbelief. Another nodded slowly, smiling through misty eyes. Simon Cowell did not smile. He did not nod. He simply stared, completely still. For someone known to always have something to say, he had gone silent. The singer reached the bridge of the song, the most emotional part, where the lyrics speak of unconditional love and unwavering devotion. His voice cracked slightly, not from lack of skill, but from feeling. It was the kind of imperfection that made the performance real. It reminded everyone that this was a human being standing there, pouring his soul into every note. As the final chorus approached, he took a deep breath and gave everything he had left. The notes rang out clear and strong, soaring higher and higher until it felt like the ceiling itself might lift. When he held the final note, the room seemed to freeze in time. No one breathed, no one moved, and then, silence. For a split second, there was nothing. No applause, no cheers, just stunned quiet, the kind of silence that happens when people don't quite know how to react to something that has just shaken them. Then the theater erupted. The audience leapt to their feet, applause crashing like thunder. Cheers echoed from every corner. Some people shouted his name. Others simply clapped, tears streaming down their faces. It was a standing ovation, loud and relentless, filled with genuine awe. The singer stood there, frozen, eyes wide, hands trembling. He had sung on the streets for years, often ignored, sometimes mocked, rarely applauded like this. The sound of thousands of people cheering for him was overwhelming. He covered his mouth, trying to hold back tears, his shoulders shaking as the reality of the moment sank in. The judges rose from their seats one by one, all except Simon. Simon remained seated, staring at the stage, his face unreadable. The applause continued, stretching on longer than usual. The singer glanced toward the judges' table, searching for some sign, some reaction. Finally, Simon stood. The room went quiet almost instantly. When Simon Cowell stands, people listen. He took a moment before speaking, looking directly at the singer. For once, Simon seemed at a loss for words. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. He exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "I don't know what to say," he began, his voice softer than usual. The audience murmured. This alone was shocking. He continued, choosing his words carefully. He spoke about how many singers come onto that stage, how many stories he has heard, how many big voices he has listened to over the years. He admitted that he had not expected much when the singer walked out. Not because of where he came from, but because of how hard it is to truly surprise him anymore. Then he looked directly at the singer again. "But you," Simon said, pausing, "you did something very rare." He explained that the performance was not just about hitting notes or showing vocal range. It was about honesty, about emotion, about making people feel something real. And that, he said, was something that could not be taught. The audience erupted again. Simon confessed that there were moments during the song when he completely forgot he was judging a competition. He wasn't analyzing, he wasn't critiquing, he was simply listening. And that, coming from Simon Cowell, meant everything. The other judges chimed in, praising the singer's control, his emotion, his bravery in choosing such a difficult song. One judge mentioned how his voice carried both strength and kindness. Another spoke about how his performance felt like a story, not just a song. When it came time to vote, the outcome was obvious. Yes after yes echoed through the theater. The final vote was unanimous. The singer broke down completely. Tears streamed down his face as he clasped his hands together, bowing slightly in gratitude. He thanked the judges, the audience, his family back home watching from thousands of miles away. He spoke about how this moment meant more than he could ever express, how it felt like years of struggle had finally led to something beautiful. As he walked off the stage, the applause followed him, refusing to fade. Backstage, he leaned against a wall, breathing hard, trying to process what had just happened. For the first time in his life, he felt seen. Not as a poor kid from the streets, not as someone struggling to survive, but as an artist. Clips of the audition spread quickly online. Millions watched and rewatched the performance. Comments poured in from around the world. People spoke about how his voice gave them chills, how his story inspired them, how his performance reminded them of the power of music to connect hearts across cultures and backgrounds. In the Philippines, families gathered around televisions and phones, proud tears flowing as they watched one of their own shine on a global stage. Children who sang on the streets dreamed a little bigger. Parents who struggled felt a little more hopeful. And Simon Cowell, a man known for his tough exterior, would later admit in interviews that the audition stayed with him. That it reminded him why he fell in love with music in the first place. Not for the fame, not for the money, but for moments like that, when a voice from the most unexpected place can stop the world and speak directly to the soul. For the young Filipino singer, that night was not the end of his journey. It was the beginning of a new chapter. One where his voice would no longer echo only through narrow streets, but across stages, screens, and hearts around the world. He had walked onto the AGT stage as a poor street singer. He walked off as something far greater. He walked off as proof that talent knows no boundaries, that dreams can survive even the harshest realities, and that sometimes, all it takes is one song, sung from the heart, to leave even Simon Cowell speechless.